My father shoved me into the fountain at my sister's wedding. Guests laughed, until my secret husband walked in with a billion-dollar name. On my sister's wedding night, my father shoved me into the fountain. I stood, mascara bleeding, and smiled. Because in exactly 20 minutes, the doors would open and the family that laughed would finally learn who I really was. My father, at my sister's wedding, pushed me into a fountain. Water was dripping from my beautiful clothing. Mascara is dripping down my face. But rather than cry, I smiled. A discreet, knowing smile. Because at the time they had no idea who I really was or who I had married. The whispers, chuckles, and pointed fingers were about to be silenced forever. Growing up in the wealthy Campbell household of Boston was all about looks. Our 5-bedroom colonial on Beacon Hill shouted success. However, behind those immaculate doors, things were different. I've been likened to my sister Isolde since I can remember. She was 2 years younger yet was usually the center of attention. My parents, Robert and Patricia Campbell, played, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" on repeat throughout my youth. My father, a prominent business attorney, prioritized appearance above all else. My mother, a former beauty queen turned socialite, never missed an opportunity to tell me I wasn't enough. I would bring home straight A's, while Isolde got straight A's plus extracurricular activities. I'd win second place in a science competition, but it would be overshadowed by Isolde's dance performance. It was unrelenting. "Briona, stand up straight. No one will take you seriously with that posture," my mother would say when I was just 12. "Isolde has natural grace," she'd say happily, resting her hand on my sister's shoulder. My father raised a glass on my 16th birthday saying, "You have to work harder at these things." I recall the anticipation, thinking, maybe this time it's for me. Instead, he announced Isolde's admission to a prestigious summer program at Yale. My birthday cake was forgotten in the kitchen. College provided no relief. While I was at Boston University, working a part-time job and achieving a 4.0 GPA, my parents rarely attended my events. But they'd travel 3 states to see every one of Isolde's Juilliard performances. My mother made the first statement at my college graduation about my logical career decision in criminal justice. "At the very least you're being realistic about your prospects," she added, smiling tightly. Meanwhile, Isolde was praised for pursuing her passion with her arts degree. The 1,000 paper cuts lasted throughout adulthood. Each family vacation was an endurance test. Every accomplishment is diminished, and every error is emphasized. Something shifted during my second year at the FBI Academy in Quantico. I chose to build emotional distance. I stopped revealing specifics about my life. I declined holiday invites. I built walls taller than our family home. What's with the irony? My career was thriving. I'd discovered my calling in counterintelligence, quickly ascending through the ranks with a combination of keen analytical skills and unwavering drive. By the age of 29, I was in charge of specialized operations that my family was completely unaware of. Cassian Reed and I met while working on a challenging multinational case. Not on the field, as one might imagine, but at a cybersecurity conference, where I represented the agency. Cassian wasn't your typical tech entrepreneur. He transformed Reed Technologies from a college dorm room into a global security behemoth worth billions. His systems safeguarded governments and corporations against growing risks. Our connection was quick and surprising. Here was someone who saw me clearly, without the distorted prism of my family past. Our romance was intense, sandwiched between my covert operations and his worldwide business empire. "I've never met anyone like you," Cassian told me on our third date, as we walked down the PTOAC at midnight. "You're extraordinary, Briona. I hope you know that." Those words, simple but real, provided more validation than I had received in decades of family life. We married 18 months later in a private ceremony seen by only 2 people, my closest co-worker, Evander, and Cassian's sister, Eliza. Our decision to keep our marriage clandestine was not solely motivated by security concerns. It was my decision to maintain this vital area of my life free of my family's toxicity. For 3 years, we developed our lives together while retaining separate public personas. Cassian traveled widely, and my position at the FBI advanced until I was appointed as the agency's youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations. This brings me back to my sister's wedding. 6 months ago the invitation came in Boston, gold and dripping with presumption. Isolde was married Leander Wellington IV, the heir to a banking fortune. The evening promised to be the kind of extravagant exhibition that my parents adored. Cassian was poised to close a significant security deal in Tokyo. "I can reschedule," he said, noticing my uncertainty. "No. I insisted. This is too important for Reed Tech. I'll be fine for one afternoon. I'll try to make it back for the reception, he told me. Even if it's just for the end. So I found myself traveling alone to the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel, my stomach clenching with every mile. I hadn't seen much of my family in nearly 2 years. My sleek black Audi, one of the few comforts I gave myself, approached the valet. I checked my reflection one more time. Classy emerald green dress, subtle diamond studs, a Cassian present, and hair in a classic updo. I appeared successful, confident, and untouchable. I wish I felt that way within. For Isolde's wedding, the Fairmont's big ballroom transformed into a flower wonderland. White orchids and roses cascaded from crystal chandeliers. It was just the kind of extravagant show my folks had always envisioned. I gave my invitation to the usher, who looked at his list with a small grimace. "Miss Campbell, we have you seated at table 19. This is not the family table, of course." I nodded politely, having already understood. My cousin Rebecca noticed me first, her eyes expanding slightly before settling into a rehearsed smile. "Brionna, what a surprise. We weren't sure you'd make it." Her glance shifted to my vacant side. "And you came alone?" "I did," I said simply, with no explanation. "How brave," she replied with fake sympathy. "After what happened with that professor you were dating, what was his name?" "Mom said it was just devastating when he left you for his teaching assistant." It was a complete lie. I'd never dated a professor, let alone been abandoned by one. But this was the Campbell family's specialty, constructing tales that portrayed me as a continuous failure. "Your memory must be confusing me with someone else," I responded quietly. More relatives approached, and the interactions were the same. Aunt Vivian commented on my practical haircut, saying it was reasonable for a lady in my situation to forego more fashionable options. Uncle Harold inquired loudly if I was still pushing papers for the government and if I had considered changing careers because those positions never paid well enough to attract a good husband. My cousin Tiffany, Isolde's maid of honor, approached with air kisses that purposefully avoided my cheeks. "Brionna, it's been a while. I love the dress. Is it from the bargain retailer where you've always found great deals?" She didn't wait for an answer. "Isolde was just saying she wasn't sure you'd come. You know, since you missed the bridal shower, the bachelorette weekend, and the rehearsal supper, each occasion had coincided with vital operations I couldn't disclose. I had sent beautiful gifts with loving messages." "Work responsibilities," I simply explained. "Right, your mysterious government job." She inserted air quotes around mysterious. "Leander's cousin works for the State Department. He says those administrative roles can be so demanding." I just smiled, letting them believe I was a clerical worker. The truth would have shocked them into silence, but it wasn't mine to disclose yet. My mother appeared, resplendent in a pale blue designer gown that likely cost more than a month of my substantial salary. "Brionna, you made it." Her tone suggested I'd completed an arduous journey rather than a simple drive across Boston. "Your sister was concerned you wouldn't come again." "I wouldn't miss Isolde's wedding," I said. Her eyes quickly scanned my looks for imperfections, but found none, so she settled on. "That color washes you out." Isolde, now officially Mrs. Wellington, arrived at the reception on the arm of her banker husband, and she was undeniably stunning in a custom barong gown with a cathedral train. My father beamed with pride, looking at Isolde as if she were the sun and moon combined, and I couldn't remember him ever looking at. The maitre d' directed me to table 19, which was so far from the main family table that I almost needed binoculars to see it. I was seated with distant cousins, my mother's former college roommate, and several elderly relatives who couldn't quite place who I was. "Are you one of the Wellington girls?" A hard-of-hearing great-aunt squinted at me over thick glasses. "No, I'm Robert and Patricia's daughter," I explained, Isolde's sister. Her face registered surprise. "Oh, I didn't know there was another daughter." That stung more than it should have, even after all these years. Dinner proceeded with elaborate courses and flowing champagne. From my distant vantage point, I watched my family holding court at the center table, laughing and celebrating without a glance in my direction. The traditional family photos had been taken earlier. During the maid of honor speech, Tiffany spoke movingly about growing up with Isolde, who was, like the sister I never had, pointedly ignoring my existence. The best man joked about Leander joining the Campbell family dynasty and how he was trading up by marrying the Campbell golden child. I kept my cool through it all, sipping water to stay clear-headed. Cassian had texted an hour earlier. "Landing shortly. Traffic from the airport is heavy. When the dance began, I tried to join a circle of relatives, but they discreetly closed ranks, leaving me on the outside. I retired to a quiet corner, checking my watch. Cassian would be here soon, just a little longer. My mother approached with a champagne flute in hand. "You could at least try to look like you're enjoying yourself," she snarled. "Your perpetual sulking is becoming a topic of conversation." "I'm not sulking, Mother. I am only observing." "Well, observe with a smile. The Wellingtons are important people, and your sister made an excellent match. Don't embarrass us, as if I were the one being embarrassed in this situation." "The least you could have done was bring a date," she continued. "Everyone is asking why you're here alone." I didn't bother explaining that my husband was worth more than the entire Wellington family fortune combined. That revelation would come soon enough. My father tapped his crystal glass for attention as the reception was in full swing. The audience fell silent as he went center stage in front of an impressive ice sculpture. "Today," he started, his voice conveying the trained projection of a seasoned attorney, "is the proudest day of my life. My lovely Isolde has made a match that beyond even a father's wildest dreams." A scattering of approving laughter followed. "Leander," he continued, turning to my new brother-in-law, "you're getting not just a wife, but admittance into a family focused on excellence and achievement." He raised his glass higher. "To Isolde, who has never disappointed us. From her earliest steps to her Juilliard graduation with highest honors and humanitarian foundation work, she has been nothing but a source of pride." My chest tightened. Not because I expected to be mentioned, I knew better, but because of the implicit comparison. Isolde had never disappointed them, and the unspoken conclusion was obvious. As he continued extolling Isolde's virtues, I quietly slipped away toward the terrace doors, needing air, space, and a moment to regroup before Cassian arrived. The evening sun was sinking over the hotel's famed courtyard fountain, sending golden light across the rippling water, and I was almost to the sanctuary of the terrace when my father's voice roared from behind me. "Leaving so soon, Briona?" I slowly turned, and he stood 10 feet away, microphone still in hand, with the entire reception looking in our direction. My mother and Isolde flanked him, identical stares of disdain on their flawless faces. "Just getting some air," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Running away." "Classic Briona," he said, as the microphone amplified his remarks to the entire audience. "Disappearing when family commitments become inconvenient." A rush of heat rose up my neck. "That isn't true, is it?" His voice had taken on the cross-examination tone that I remembered from childhood. "You've missed half of the wedding events. You arrived alone, without even the decency of bringing a companion." The room had turned utterly silent. "I'm sorry if my being alone bothered you," I added gently. "She couldn't even find a date," my father declared to the audience, eliciting uncomfortable laughter. 32 years old and no prospects in sight. Meanwhile, your sister has secured one of Boston's most eligible bachelors. His theatrics elicited even more laughs. "Dad," I murmured quietly, "this isn't the time or place." "It's exactly the time and place," he retorted, advancing toward me. "This is a celebration of success, of family achievement, something you would know nothing about." Each word was a calculated barb designed to penetrate years of carefully constructed armor. I looked at my mother and sister, hoping for any sign of intervention. They simply watched, my mother with a stiff smile, and Isolde with scarcely veiled joy. "Do you think we don't know why you're really alone? Why are you hiding behind that mystery government job?" My father added. "You've always been envious of your sister's accomplishments. Always a disappointment. Always a failure." "Dad, please stop," I begged, mindful of the hundreds of eyes on us. "Stop what? Telling the truth? The truth that you've never lived up to your potential and are ashamed to the Campbell name?" His voice rose with each question, and something inside me snapped, not toward anger, but toward a strange, calm clarity. "You have no idea who I am," I said quietly. "I know exactly who you are," he snarled. Then it happened. His hands touched my shoulders, a forceful shove that caught me completely off guard. I stumbled backward, arms windmilling, but there was nothing to grab onto. For a split second, I felt weightlessness, then the shocking cold as I plunged backward into the courtyard fountain. Water engulfed me. My carefully styled hair collapsed, my silk dress billowed, then clung, and my makeup undoubtedly ran in rivulets down my face. The physical shock was nothing compared to the realization that my own father had just publicly humiliated me at my sister's wedding. The crowd's reaction came in waves, first shocked gasps, then uncertain titters, finally erupting into full-throated laughter and even scattered applause. Someone wolf whistled, and another voice called out, "Wet t-shirt contest after the garter toss." More laughter and applause. I pushed myself up, water streaming from my ruined dress, and my heels slipped on the fountain's slick bottom as I found my footing. Through dripping strands of hair, I saw my father's triumphant expression, my mother's hand covering a smile, and my sister's undisguised glee. The photographer took picture after picture, capturing my humiliation for posterity. This would be in the wedding album shared around at future family gatherings, another chapter in the Briona the failure narrative. But something unexpected happened in that fountain, and as the cold water stunned my system, I realized I was done. I stood fully upright in the fountain, water cascading from my designer dress, pushing back my soaked hair and looking directly at my father. "Remember this moment," I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet courtyard. Not shouting, not emotional, but clear and precise. My father's smile froze. Something in my tone must have registered because worry flickered in his eyes. "Remember exactly how you treated me," I added, edging slowly closer the fountain's edge. "Remember the decisions you made. Remember what you did to your daughter, because I guarantee you I will." I got out of the fountain with as much dignity as my wet state permitted. A stunned silence had replaced the laughter, and even my father appeared to be at a loss for words. I remembered a similar public humiliation from high school graduation, when my father interrupted my valedictorian speech to loudly comment that memorization had always been Briona's only talent, and the audience had laughed as well. I had shrunken into myself, becoming smaller, but not this time. I walked through the crowd, water dripping with each step, creating a trail across the expensive carpet. No one stopped me, no one offered help, no one spoke, and strangely, I was fine with that. For the first time in my life, I didn't need anything from these people. When I pushed through the door of the Fairmont's ladies' room, I saw myself in the gold-framed mirror, mascara streaked, plastered to my skull, the emerald dress now a darker forest green, saturated with water. But I didn't feel defeated. Rather, I felt strangely liberated. My phone was in my clutch, which I had happily left at table 19 prior to the fountain episode. I grabbed it from a concerned-looking distant relative who had guarded it for me, then returned to the bathroom to text Cassian. "How near are you?" His response was immediate. 20 minutes out, clearing traffic. Is everything okay?" I hesitated before typing. Dad pushed me into the fountain in front of everyone. 3 dots appeared instantaneously, then disappeared and reappeared. Finally. "I'm coming." 10 minutes. Cassian was always thinking 10 steps ahead and protecting what was important to him, which included me. I had no idea he had dispatched a security team ahead. The restroom door flew open, and a young woman entered, one of Leander's relatives, I assumed. She paused when she seen me. "Oh, are you okay?" "I'm all right," I said, straightening my spine. "Just a little wet." She hovered uncertainly. "Everyone's talking about what happened. It was quite dreadful of your father." Her unexpected friendliness almost shattered my heart. "Thank you for saying that. I have a spare dress in my car," she said. "It could be a little big, but..." "That's really nice, but I have a change of clothes in my car. A professional habit. Always have backup plans. Could you accompany me to the valet?" "I'd rather not wade through the crowd alone." "Of course," she answered. "My name is Maris. Leander's step-cousin from his mother's second marriage. Essentially, the Wellington family is an aberration." "Briona," I replied, offering my dripping hand. "The Campbell family is a scapegoat." Maris intervened as we made our way through a side exit to the valet stand, saying, "It's a pleasure to meet you." She laughed, and that brief moment of connection helped me stay calm. I collected my backup wardrobe from the Audi's trunk, a modest black sheath dress and flats I kept for emergencies, and after 10 minutes in a neighboring washroom, I had transformed myself from drowned rat to pretty acceptable professional. As I applied fresh makeup, I reflected on my real life, not the distorted version my family saw. I had graduated from Quantico at the top of my class, led operations that saved American lives, earned the respect of hardened field agents and Washington officials alike, and married a brilliant, kind man who valued me exactly as I was. None of that validation had come from the people now celebrating in the ballroom. And maybe that was the point. True worth is only found beyond the funhouse mirrors of poisonous family relationships. I checked my watch. Cassian would arrive any minute, and for the first time, I was ready to stop disguising our connection, not because I wanted my family to be impressed. That ship had sailed into the fountain with me, but I was tired of lowering myself to make them comfortable. My phone vibrated with a text message. From Cassian. In position. I took a deep breath, straightened my new dress, and headed back toward the reception with my head up and shoulders back. Maris had returned to her table, but she flashed me an encouraging thumbs up as I passed. The celebrations had resumed during my absence. The dance floor was crowded, the bar was busy, the cake was waiting to be cut, and no one noticed me right away, allowing me to position myself strategically near the main entrance. I spotted my mother first, holding court with several of her socialite friends, gesturing animatedly, and as I got closer, her words became clear. It's always been difficult. We've tried everything with her. Absolutely everything. The best schools, the best therapists. Some people simply refuse to thrive. Such a shame, said one of her acquaintances. Especially with Isolde being so successful. Same parents, same opportunities, genetics are mysterious. My mother sighed theatrically. Robert and I have accepted that Briona will never. She trailed off when she recognized me standing there, no longer hidden in the bathroom as she had believed. Briona, she replied swiftly. You look dry. Yes, mother. I always keep a spare outfit handy, one of many professional habits. Her pals exchanged awkward welcomes before finding urgent excuses to refill their drinks. Was humiliating me part of the wedding itinerary, or did Dad improvise that part? I was softly asking. Don't be so dramatic, she snarled. You were trying to slink away as usual. Your father simply lost patience with your antisocial behavior. Pushing your adult daughter into a fountain is not a normal response to perceived antisocial behavior. Perhaps if you had brought a date, made any effort at all to participate in your sister's happiness instead of making everything about your mysterious job and your perpetually busy schedule, things would have gone differently. I studied my mother's face, looking for any sign of the protective instinct that should have existed. There was nothing but resentment that I had interrupted her narration. You know what's interesting, Mother? I've never once made anything about me. In fact, I've spent my entire life trying to take up as little space as possible in this family, and it still wasn't enough. A ruckus at the door drew everyone's attention. The unmistakable sound of several car doors closing in rapid succession. The appearance of two men in perfect suits carrying out a modest security sweep. My mother frowned. What's happening? Did the Wellingtons arrange additional security without consulting us? I checked my wristwatch. Right on time, I said. The sleek black Maybach had arrived, along with two equally outstanding security vehicles. Conversations paused as attention switched toward the entrance, as witnessed by the wedding guests. Even the music felt too quiet. My heart raced, despite my outward serenity. Cassian's effect on me persisted even after 3 years of marriage. And in about 60 seconds, my family would finally meet my husband. The huge doors to the ballroom opened with authority. Evander and Dmitri were the first two security personnel to enter. I recognized their attentive eyes, which were searching the room with professional competence. They wore excellent clothes that couldn't quite hide their military appearance. Whispers echoed throughout the event. The bride's father approached the security personnel with an affronted attitude. Excuse me, my father said, puffing his chest. This is a private event. If you're looking for the corporate conference, it's in the West Wing. Evander merely gazed through him, as if he were translucent. Dmitri tapped his earphone and spoke softly. Perimeter secure. Proceeding. And then Cassian walked in. My spouse has always had a dominating presence, but tonight he appeared to fill the entire entryway. 6'2" with strong shoulders from years of swimming. He wore a custom Tom Ford suit that exuded riches and power. His brown hair was slightly windblown. He'd most likely come directly from the helicopter pad on the roof. His jawline could have cut glass. But it was his eyes that always got me. They were intensely blue and laser-focused, scanning the room in seconds before landing on me. When they did, his solemn countenance relaxed into a private smile, intended for me. He strode through the crowd with the assurance of someone who has never doubted his right to be anywhere. People instantly stepped aside, leaving a passage straight to where I stood. I was barely aware of my mother beside me, her body stiffening as she realized this enormous man was coming directly at us. Behind him, 4 additional security personnel had entered, methodically positioned themselves around the perimeter. Briona, Cassian began as he approached me, his voice a warm bass that reverberated through the now quiet chamber. He took my hands, stroking his thumbs on my knuckles in a secret gesture of connection. Sorry I'm late. You're right on time, I said, feeling calm for the first time that day. He leaned down and kissed me. Not a spectacular spectacle, but a sincere greeting between lovers. As he turned to face my mother, he placed a protective hand on the small of my back. "Mrs. Campbell," he said politely, but without warmth. "I'm Cassian Reed, Breonna's husband." My mother's face went through a breathtaking range of expressions, including astonishment, incredulity, calculation, and finally a strained attempt at happiness. "Husband?" she said, her voice unusually high. But Breonna never mentioned. 3 years next month, Cassian answered calmly. "We keep our private life private for security reasons." My father had pushed his way through the crowd and arrived by my mother's side, his face flushed with either rage or embarrassment, possibly both. "What's the meaning of this?" he asked, his gaze shifting from me to Cassian. "Some kind of prank? Hiring security and an actor to create a scene at your sister's wedding is a new low, Breonna." Cassian's expression sharpened quite imperceptibly. Only someone who knew him as well as I did could see the lethal glitter in his eyes. "Mr. Campbell," he replied, his voice deceptively soft. "I'm Cassian Reed, CEO of Reed Technologies. Your daughter and I have been married for nearly 3 years." My father's mouth opened and closed silently. Reed Technologies was a household name and a multi-billion-dollar worldwide security corporation. Even my technologically averse father would recognize it. "That's not possible," he finally said. "We would have known." "Would you?" Cassian inquired, his tone genuine and curious. "When have you ever shown interest in Breonna's actual life?" "From what I've observed today, and what she's shared over the years, your interest extends only to criticizing her choices, not understanding them." My sister had now come, her white robe resembling an apparition drifting through the shocked attendees. Leander followed in her footsteps, his countenance conflicted between surprise and fascination. "What's happening?" Isolde demanded. "Who are these people?" "Apparently," my mother murmured softly, "your sister has a husband." "That's ridiculous," Isolde remarked. "She's making it up for attention." "On my wedding day." Cassian tightened his arm around my waist, not possessively, but supportively. "Mrs. Wellington, congratulations on your marriage. I apologize for missing the ceremony. International business obligations kept me in Tokyo until a few hours ago." His excellent manners contrasted sharply with Isolde's harshness. She flushed, uncertainly gazing around at Cassian, the security team, and the growing number of eager wedding guests. "Is this some kind of joke?" my father asked, his voice returning. "You expect us to believe that Breonna, our Breonna, secretly married a billionaire tech CEO," said one of Leander's buddies from the back, who appeared to have Googled Cassian on his phone. "Holy that's really Cassian Reed, Forbes cover last month. Net worth estimated at $12 billion. A collective gasp echoed throughout the room. My mother swayed slightly, grasping for the back of a chair to support herself. "I don't understand," she muttered. "Why wouldn't you tell us?" For the first time, her query was genuine rather than accusing. I nearly felt bad for her. "When have you ever wanted to hear about my successes, Mother?" I said kindly. "When have you ever celebrated anything about me?" she asked. "As for me," Cassian continued calmly, "I've been looking forward to meeting the family Breonna has described so vividly. Though I admit, after witnessing your behavior today, I find myself rather—" He hesitated, carefully weighing his words. "Disappointed." My father's face darkened. "Now listen here, young man." "No, Mr. Campbell," Cassian said abruptly, his voice as cold as steel. "You listen. I watched from the terrace as you publicly humiliated your daughter. I saw you push her into that fountain. I heard the things you said to her." My father's face was devoid of blood. "Under normal circumstances," Cassian went on, "such an assault would have immediate consequences. My security team was prepared to intervene, but Breonna signaled them to stand down. That's the kind of person your daughter is. Even after your despicable behavior, she didn't want to create a scene at her sister's wedding." The room had become utterly silent. Even the waiters were frozen in place. "Fortunately for you," Cassian went on, "my wife is a better person than I am. Because if anyone ever treated her that way again, my response would not be nearly so measured." The threat, conveyed in the most courteous manner possible, hovered in the air like storm clouds. The ballroom doors reopened at precisely that moment, as if orchestrated for maximum dramatic effect. 2 people in impeccable business clothes came, their posture revealing their identities even before I saw their faces. Evander and Sophia, my most trusted bureau team members. They came with purposeful strides, coming to a reasonable distance from Cassian and me as we stood with my family. Director Campbell, Sophia properly stated, adopting my official title. I apologize for the interruption, but there's a situation requiring your immediate attention. The title hung in the air for a moment before the whispering began. Director, did she say Director Campbell? What department? My father's confusion was nearly hilarious. Director of what? Some minor government office? Cassian's smile was razor-sharp. Your daughter is the youngest deputy director of counterintelligence operations in FBI history, Mr. Campbell. Her work has saved countless American lives and earned her the highest security clearance possible. More gasps and whispers. My mother looked like she was about to faint. Isolde stepped forward, her bridal glow dimmed by perplexity and dawning terror. That's impossible. Brionna is just what, Isolde? I inquired calmly. Just your disappointing older sister? Just the family scapegoat? Just the perpetual failure? She wasn't going to respond. The Brionna Campbell I know, Cassian began, his voice echoing easily across the silent room, is brilliant, courageous, and formidable. She has the respect of hardened field agents and government officials alike. She makes daily decisions that affect national security. He turned and looked directly at my father. And for some inexplicable reason, she still cared enough about your approval to attend this wedding, despite knowing exactly how you would treat her. My father appeared to have aged 10 years in the last 5 minutes. The confident bullying attorney had departed, leaving behind a perplexed elderly man struggling to reconcile his lifelong story with this new reality. Why didn't you tell us? He inquired, his voice as low as I had ever heard it. Would you have believed me? I said simply. Or would you have found a way to reduce this as well? His silence provided an adequate response. Evander approached with a protected tablet. Director, I hate to press, but we need your authorization on this operation. I grabbed the tablet, scanned the material, and made a hasty choice. Proceed with option 2, but increase surveillance on the secondary target. I'll call in for the full briefing in 20 minutes. Yes, ma'am, Evander said, handing the tablet back. The professional discussion took seconds, but the impact on the room was seismic. This was not play acting. This wasn't some sophisticated ruse. This was genuine authority and responsibility, which I wielded with casual assurance. Cassian checked his watch. We should go. The chopper is waiting, and the Tokyo crew is ready for the video conference at 9 o'clock. I nodded and turned to face my startled family one final time. Congratulations on your wedding, Isolde. I wish you and Leander all happiness. My sister appeared unable to speak. Leander, to his credit, stepped up and extended his hand to Cassian. It was an honor to meet you, Mr. Reed and Director Campbell. I hope we can get to know each other better in the future. His genuineness was unexpected and quite heartwarming. I shook his hand warmly. I'd enjoy that, Leander. My parents stayed frozen. Decades of well-crafted story lay in shambles around them. Cassian addressed Mr. and Mrs. Campbell with exemplary civility. Thank you for this invitation. I sincerely apologize for missing the ceremony. My father has finally found his voice. Brionna, wait. We need to discuss this. We are your parents. We've always wanted the best for you. We have always been proud of you. The open attempt to change history may have worked in the past. Not today. No, Dad, I said gently. You have not. But that's fine. I don't need you to be proud of me anymore. With that, Cassian and I turned and went out of the ballroom, my security team forming around us. Behind us, whispering had turned into full-throated exclamations. The Campbells would never be the same, and neither would I. The sleek black helicopter waited on the Fairmont's rooftop helipad, its blades already starting their slow rotation. As we approached, escorted by security, I sensed a strange lightness. Decades of family baggage appeared to have vanished in that ballroom, leaving only my parents' broken illusions. Are you okay? Cassian said, his mouth close enough to my ear to be heard above the rising rotor noise. Surprisingly, I said. Better than okay. Sophia approached us before we could board, looking apprehensive. Director, there's been a development. The ambassador is requesting your presence at the embassy immediately. The surveillance package picked up anomalous signals. Cassian gave me a concerned look. This was not part of the evening's script. Is it real or performance art? I asked gently. Unfortunately, real, she answered. Evander has already started communicating with the field team. Time sensitive. I nodded, totally entering professional mode. Reroute the helicopter to the embassy. Alert the duty analyst team. I would like a comprehensive briefing when I arrive. Sophia affirmed that everything had already been done. Cassian touched my arm. Go. I will meet you there. This smooth adaptability to catastrophe was the foundation of our marriage. Two high-powered careers may clash with personal goals. The difference was that we supported, not disliked, each other's obligations. As we returned to the roof access door, intending to descend and escape by the hotel's private security gate, our path was barred. My mother stood there, slightly winded after seemingly rushing up several flights of stairs. Her perfect coiffure had faded slightly, and even her flawless makeup couldn't conceal her sorrow. Brionna, she murmured, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. You cannot just leave like this. We need to talk. I glanced at Sophia, who nodded subtly and walked aside to allow us some privacy. I have a job emergency, Mom. National security does not wait for family reunification. She repeated, national security, as if for the first time. You truly are what they said. A director at the FBI and deputy director of counterintelligence operations. I confirmed for the last 18 months. Before that, I was the assistant director for 3 years. She appeared to be attempting to reconcile this information with her long-held perception of me. But why the secrecy? Why not tell us? We'd have been proud. I finished for her. Wouldn't you? Or could you have discovered a way to reduce it? Compare it negatively to Isolde's accomplishments. I believe I obtained the job through connections rather than competence. Her flinch indicated that I had struck the mark. And the marriage, she pressed, lasted 3 years, he said. 3 years. And you never mentioned your marriage to one of the country's wealthiest men. I noticed she emphasized Cassian's wealth over any of his other exceptional features. Even today, status was her main preoccupation. Our marriage is private for several reasons, as I painstakingly explained. Cassian's location makes him a potential target. My job entails classified work, and to be honest, I wanted something in my life that was not susceptible to the Campbell family's scrutiny. The chopper pilot indicated that we needed to depart. Time was running out. I have to leave, I said. There is a legitimate national security scenario brewing. Will you come back? She inquired. And for the first time in my adult life, I detected true hesitation in her voice. To converse and get to know you. The question astonished me. I scrutinized her face, searching for the manipulative mother I'd known my entire life. Instead, I saw perplexity, hurt, and possibly a dawning knowledge of what she had missed. I'm not sure, I answered honestly. That depends on whether you want to know the real me or just the successful one that now has your approval. She had no quick reaction to that. Think about it, I advised. Consider whether you want a relationship based on who I am, rather than who you wish I were. I turned to leave, but her voice interrupted me once more. Your father would never accept it, she added gently. But he was mistaken today. He did something unforgivable. It wasn't an apology, but it was more acknowledgement than I'd ever had. Thank you for saying that, I said. I need to go. As Cassian and I boarded the chopper, I looked back to see my mother still standing there, a small figure against the expanse of the Boston cityscape. For the first time, I saw her not as the terrifying grandmother of my youth, but as a lady who had built her entire identity on appearances and social standing, and was now facing the breakdown of her carefully maintained illusions. I had an unexpected feeling of compassion. The embassy scenario turned out to be legitimate but controllable, with encrypted messages indicating a potential security breach, which my team successfully resolved within 2 hours. By 11 p.m., Cassian and I were alone in our penthouse overlooking the Charles River. Some wedding, he said, removing his tie as we stood on the terrace. The city lights reflected on the lake, producing a tapestry of sparkling patterns. Not quite how I had planned to introduce you to the family, I conceded, taking off my shoes. I thought it went rather well actually, he added with a faint smile. The look on your father's face when Evander called you director was worth the price of admission. I laughed despite myself. That was rather satisfying. Your mother followed you to the roof, he told me. That seems significant. I'm not sure what it means yet, I said. Honestly, 32 years of patterns don't change in an afternoon. No, he agrees. But revelations can sometimes create opportunities for change. He softly drew me into his arms. Whatever you decide about your family, I'm with you. If you want to explore reconciliation, I'll support that. If you want to maintain distance, I'll support that too. This was what true love felt like. Not the conditional acceptance I had been seeking from my family for decades. but unwavering support regardless of my decisions. Did you see Leander's face when he realized who you were? I inquired, shifting the conversation. I think he was mentally calculating how to get you to invest in his hedge fund. Cassian laughed. He seemed like the only decent one in the bunch. Recognized your title immediately and showed appropriate respect. I noticed that too, I admitted. Maybe Isolde made a better choice than I gave her credit for. My phone vibrated with an incoming text. I expected it to be work-related, but instead, I saw my cousin Maris's name. OMG. The family is in utter collapse since you left. Your father keeps claiming there must be an error. Your mom is unusually silent. Isolde has shut herself inside the bridal suite. Also, I googled your hubby, and holy crap. Also, I'm sorry they treated you so poorly all these years. Have a drink sometime. I signed your new favorite cousin. I showed Cassian the note and he raised an eyebrow. New favorite cousin. She was kind to me after the fountain incident, I stated before you arrived. Offered me a spare dress. Helped me avoid the crowd. Small kindness, but it stood out. Sometimes allies come from unexpected places, he noted. Over the next hour my phone filled up with messages from family members who had never called me before. Distant family unexpectedly recalled my birthday. Second cousins asked about lunch dates. My father sent a stiffly formal text message requesting that we discuss recent developments at your earliest convenience. I hushed the phone and laid it aside. Those reactions can wait. They're not reaching out to me, I told Cassian as we got ready for bed. They're reaching out to Director Campbell, wife of billionaire Cassian Reed, not to the person I actually am. Does that surprise you? He inquired gently. No, I conceded, but it does help clarify things. As I drifted off to sleep in the comfort of our home, I realized that the events of the day had not provided me with a family. I'd had one all along, Cassian, my trusty bureau team, and friends that valued me for who I am. The family I selected over the one I was born into. And, as I discovered, it made all the difference. 3 weeks after my sister's wedding, Cassian and I sat in our favorite nook of Thinking Cup Cafe on Newberry Street. Despite our combined net worth and prominence, we relished these brief moments of normalcy, nice coffee, calm discussion, and people watching in an environment where we were not immediately recognized. Your mother called again yesterday, Cassian explained, swirling his Americano. That's the third time this week. I nodded as passers-by hurried past the window. The Boston fall has painted the trees on Commonwealth Avenue in vivid reds and golds. She left another voicemail, invited us to Sunday dinner. Are you thinking about it? His tone was indifferent, neither encouraging nor discouraging. I'm not sure, I confessed. Part of me thinks it's careful distance, still processing her displacement from the family spotlight. But there were moments, brief, tentative moments of something like genuine connection. My father posed intelligent questions concerning a recent cybersecurity project Cassian's organization had launched for federal entities. My mother brought a box of my childhood accomplishments, which she seems to have preserved all these years. Debate trophies, scholastic accolades, and scientific competition medals, evidence that she may have recognized more than she realized. Most shocking was Isolde's desire for a private conversation after supper. My sister struggled visibly in the area where we had played as children, with words that did not come easy to her. I didn't know, she finally said, about your job, husband or life. You never asked, I remarked, not unkindly. I know. She nervously twisted her wedding ring. I think I liked being the favorite. It was easier not to question it. Her candor was unexpected. Leander says, I need to examine why I felt threatened by your success, she told me. Even before I knew about all of this. She made a vague gesture that included my work, marriage and position. He thinks we could both benefit from family therapy. I stared at my sister intently, probably for the first time in years. Behind the beautiful facade, I saw uncertainty and uneasiness. Even the golden kid status comes with its own set of difficulties and unreasonable expectations. I'd think about that, I responded cautiously. Not immediately, but eventually. It wasn't really forgiveness, but it was an opening. There was a slight break in the fortress walls I had created around my heart when it came to family. The months that followed saw gradual and imprecise improvement. Weekly family dinners progressively become less stressful. My parents learnt to respect the boundaries I set. My father initially resisted anger management therapy, but eventually became more self-aware. My mother and I began tentative mother-daughter trips, which alternated between stress and genuine laughing. Healing was not a linear process. There were setbacks, instances when old patterns resurfaced, such as my father's rage or my mother's criticism. However, accountability was introduced for the first time. A readiness to accept responsibility for harm and make efforts to remedy it. However, the most profound change occurred within myself rather than in my family. I no longer based my worth on their acceptance. I no longer downplayed my accomplishments to make people comfortable. I could no longer accept disrespect as the price of membership. 1 year after the infamous wedding, Cassian and I had a party at our house. Not just immediate relatives, but the people who had built my support system over the years. My FBI colleagues, Cassian's sister and her family, friends who had stood by me, Maris and her new boyfriend, and even a few extended family members who had expressed genuine interest and connection. As I glanced around at this eclectic gathering, this chosen family interlaced with biological connections, I realized something deep. Family is more than just shared DNA, it's about who shows up, who sees you plainly and still loves you, who celebrates your accomplishments without envy and supports you through mistakes without judgment. Sometimes those folks are in your bloodline. Often they do not. The magic happens when you stop imposing connections where they don't naturally exist, and instead cultivate those that bring mutual joy and growth. Standing in our kitchen, prepared to serve dessert, I felt Cassian's arms embrace me from behind. "Happy?" he inquired simply. I snuggled into his arms, gazing through the doorway as my father talked animatedly with Evander about fishing strategies, and my mother showed Maris images from her phone. And Isolde let out a melodious laugh in response to what Leander said. Not perfect, yet difficult, but authentic in ways it had never been before. "Yes," I responded sincerely. "I am." If you're watching this and have dealt with toxic family relationships, I want you to know that your worth isn't defined by people who don't recognize it. Setting limits is not selfish. It is vital for healing. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to create space until true transformation comes. Have you seen family relationships improve after setting clear boundaries? Or have you found peace by starting your own family instead? Please share your stories in the comments section below. Your experience could be just what another viewer needs to hear today.